Number 3 then is going to be trendistic.indextank.com. Trendistic focuses on Twitter, and actually as I was reviewing multiple social media tracking sites for this webinar, I was realizing that really many of them are focused on Twitter. And one big reason for that is that Twitter is the website that has the highest number of users that create public profiles. So Facebook, of course, has many more users than Twitter, but mostly individual profiles on Facebook are totally private and not searchable, therefore. But Twitter, the norm for Twitter accounts, you can restrict them, but the norm for them is that they are public and visible to everyone, and therefore searchable. And Twitter also obviously has a big user base, and so I think that's why there are so many social media tracking sites focusing on Twitter. But this is one of them. This is, again, trendistic.indextank.com. What it allows you to do is search for mentions of your company or your product on Twitter, and again, really any word or phrase. And it shows you a graph of the latest activity either from the last 24 hours or the last week or the last 30 days. So again, going back to Trendistic here, if we go put in Amazon.com and ask it to show trends, now likely we're going to get something that looks significantly higher than you might see for for a smaller or mid-sized company. But this at least, and I'm not sure why it's not popping up automatically. Maybe it's just taking a minute to calculate it. Interesting. Well, you'll have to trust me that, and maybe it didn't like the dot. That's also possible. Let's try this. There we go. That looks better. That looks more realistic. So here you can start to see, the chart in terms of the mentions that Amazon is getting, and you can start to see then what some of the recent tweets are about Amazon. And again, you can do this actually all the way up to 180 days. But 180 days then is going to ask you to register. It's 30 days that you can get up to for free. So anyway, those are the basic. That's basically how Trendistic works. So if you are interested particularly in what people are saying about you when it comes to Twitter, or if Twitter is a place where you are trying to focus and sort of trying to make a big splash, then this is going to help you see how you're doing with that effort. Okay, and then tool number 4, Spezify.com. Spezify.com is in some ways it's sort of a glorified normal web search. What it does is it takes results about you from about you or your company, or again whatever word or phrase you put in, from search engines or videos that it finds on YouTube and Vimeo and things like that, or image results and tweets and things like that, and it arranges all that information into a very graphical example. So you can see the example I had on my slide here was what it showed me for OPASTCO, which is one of our telecommunications associations. But let's see what it does for Amazon.com. You can see that what it does is it automatically starts adding things into the graphic, and so it started off with tweets, and now as you scroll up and down and around, it's added in a bunch of image results. It's adding in things like videos and basically all sorts of different results. These are e-commerce results over here where you can actually buy various things, and so again, it's sort of a graphical search engine. The reason I like it and think of it in terms of social media tracking is because you can start to see. I mean, when I put in something like my own name, I tried my own name in Spezify, and it pretty quickly turned into things that were not about me. And if that's happening, then you know that traffic about your company is not very high. I also like that Spezify does go into Twitter and look for things within Twitter and because again, that's tying it directly into social media and things like that. So, so that's what Specify does. And then the last tool that I wanted to show you today is called WhatDoesTheInternetThink.net. WhatDoesTheInternetThink.net tracks mentions of you and ratings of you across. You can do it using either just Google or just Yahoo or just Bing, or you can combine them and do all three, which takes longer. But it starts to give you sort of an overall picture of what people are saying about you and how they're rating you. Is it negative, positive, or is it neutral? Do they not care? The slide that I'm showing here is from one of our clients who overall has a very positive rating. But again, let's go to WhatDoesTheInternetThink.net and see how Amazon.com is doing. And here you can see, again, very similar to the slide that I just showed. Amazon gets a pretty strong positive viewing, 17.1% negative, and then very few people actually who are neutral. Again, what I like about this is that it's drawing on sites that are social in nature, as almost all rating sites are, and it's and it really gives you a helpful and quick way to say, hey, what are people saying about us overall? What's the sort of overall impression? Now, what I found is that for many smaller businesses, there's really not much of an impression. You don't get a whole lot of numbers. You get a few, but not a ton. And I actually think that also says says a lot about it may show that not that many people are thinking about you, and maybe it would be helpful for you to go out and seek some reviews on Yelp and things like that. Go out there and get your name out via Dig and things like that. So again, another helpful tool for seeing what people are paying attention to and how they're reviewing you when it comes to things online. So those are the 5 tools, and if you missed out on any of these websites, of course I'll have the slides from this presentation ready. There are a few takeaways that I want to talk about as we sort of finish up right now. First of all, social media tracking is helpful for figuring out what your social media return on investment is. Again, it's not going to give you exact numbers, but it can give you trends overall on how you're doing, how you're improving over time. Again, especially with something like HowSociable.com, which is actually tracking tracking how you're doing across many sites and then giving you a score. You can start to see, is that score improving? Are people starting to talk more about it? Is the product we just released creating a buzz, or is it not? And it's just a helpful way of starting to think about the return on investment when it comes to social media. The second takeaway, it doesn't have to be expensive. I love that all 5 of these sites that I showed you are free sites. They are just sites that people have created because they recognize that this is a need. And I think each of the sites in various ways has things that you can pay for, but the information they give you without paying is pretty helpful. So this really does not have to be an expensive venture, checking these things out every now and then. Third takeaway is that tracking social media can actually help you in terms of your customer response. A lot of our clients are very good about tracking or about responding to things like Facebook comments that are posted on somebody's wall or something like that, on a company wall is what I mean. When a customer writes in and says, hey, there's something wrong with your service, can you let me know what's going on? Many of our clients are very good at responding to those things. What this social tracking does is it helps you catch things that you might otherwise miss. Because many of these sites are actually going out to social media sites and catching the mentions of various phrases or company names, that sort of thing, you can actually figure out, hey, somebody on Twitter posted about us and they didn't tag us, they just mentioned us, and we should really get in touch with that person and see if we can help them out. So I think that these social media tracking tools can really help you reach out to your customers in an even better way. Another takeaway, remember that by and large Facebook is exempt from this. Because of Facebook is built primarily around individual personal profiles, there's not a lot that these social media tracking tools can do in terms of tracking what's going on Facebook. So that's just an area where you need to make sure, as I said before, that you're keeping a good eye on your company page to see what people are doing there. If you are a company that's based within a particular community, you might jump around to other community Facebook pages and just see if just make sure that nothing is being said about you there that you wouldn't want, or if there is, address it in a helpful way. And I think it's admirable that HowSociable.com at least goes after the sort of overall impression of what people are saying about you on Facebook's public pages through the company pages and events and things like that. And the final takeaway here in terms of social media tracking is that it's just a good idea to get in the habit of tracking your social media presence. You can see in the time it's taken me to present this, we went to 5 different sites and tracked how Amazon.com was doing, and so it's not too difficult to just go and take a few minutes every now and then, and sort of keep an idea in your head of how your HowSociable.com score is rising or falling, and just keep it there as something you do regularly, so that you do have an idea of how the trend is going, and hopefully you're seeing constant improvement over time. That's always the hope if things are going well with your social media presence. So I think that's it for me today. If you have any questions, I'd be happy. Contests and the rules behind them, and the fact that Facebook requires you to use a third-party application to run a contest on Facebook. And so what I want to talk about in that webinar on the 30th will be which of these third-party applications are worth your time to look at and use when it comes to Facebook contests. So I'll do a review of some of the best. For our telecommunications clients, Dave Newstratton's next Straight Talk on Telco Marketing webinar will be Wednesday, September 28th, again at 11 o'clock Pacific time. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. I hope you all have a great weekend. Remember to keep your media social and your talk straight.